Welcome to another edition of the Dog or Pass podcast presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. I'm Paul Shaughnessy, joined on the line by Cody Saftic. How's it going, buddy?
Good, man. Good. Got the rare week off, and then, there was still more MMA to be had. But yeah, I don't know. I guess it kind of felt weird. Like, we do it every single week. So even just 1 week off doesn't feel like a vacation. It just feels like something was missing of the schedule. So anyways, happy to be back joined on a Wednesday, and fun offering, difficult offering. In my opinion, this is going to be Dog City, but could be a nice profitable card and a fun one certainly to get back at.
100%. I actually took like a little step away from the scene for my vacation, and it was good. It's you come back in refreshed, ready to do tape study, Everything was lined up here today for Pat. All the graphics were in their place. Everything on our document was all set up. Like, let's get at her to close out 2021. Later on in the show, Pat Mayo's voice will pop up, and it'll provide literally free money that they're giving out.
This is a good deal, man. I read about this today on Twitter. I was like, sick.
It's you put $1 down. Pat has all the details, but it's like you put $1 down, and if there is a punch landed in Pacquiao Yugas, I don't even know if I'm pronouncing his name right. It doesn't matter. You can win $100 if you don't have a DraftKings account by making the play on, for a punch to be landed in a boxing match, and you get $100. So that's literally a welcome.
What are the
bonus.
chances a punch doesn't land? Right?
There is not. Yeah, there's so much. A lot of times people go, there is no such thing as free money. That is legitimately free money. So if you don't have an account yet, get in while the getting's good, because they're literally giving away free money this week. All right, let's get into the main event of UFC Vegas 34. We have Jared Cannonier taking on Kelvin Gastelum. Jared Cannonier, a minus 150 favorite. Gastelum can be had for plus 130. Who you got here?
Yeah, okay, so I was definitely a Jared Cannonier guy. He started off his career as a heavyweight in the UFC, fighting Sean Jordan. Makes his way down to 205 and still fights some bangers, some really tough guys. But at 185 pounds, he's definitely found his weight class in the UFC, and he looks super solid. But again, you've always got to look back at things with a fine lens. And when I kind of look back at him, it's almost like he was overachieving, so to speak. When he dropped down to 185 against David Branch. So you remember David Branch from World Series of Fighting. He was a dual champ. But does anybody remember David Branch from his unforgettable UFC run? No, total bust. And yet he's a plus 265 underdog against Branch, knocks him out. Now he comes in against Anderson Silva. This ain't Anderson Silva. This is a shell of Anderson Silva. And yet he's a minus 125 favorite over Anderson Silva. No respect. Then against Jack Hermanson. Yes, and against Jack Hermanson, he's a plus 230 underdog. So all I'm saying is it's a nice run. But when you look back at it, Branch faded out very quick, didn't do anything in the UFC. Anderson Silva was at the tail end of his career, injured his leg in that fight very quickly, is no longer with the promotion. And in Hermanson's case, Hermanson actually fought a decent first round, got a takedown, and the second round he ends up getting, he shoots into rock hard hips and like dazes him, falls to the ground, gets ground and pounded. But with Cannonier, it's like these quick victories, they set him up on the map. But I think I overbought into the fact that he was like a legitimate top 5 competitor, that he's a legitimate guy that could fight for the title. And when he took on Robert Whittaker, that blindness definitely cost me, because I thought he'd do a lot better against Whittaker. And see, what happens is when you look at those 3 wins, Paul, he's super low volume. But the thing is, look at the way the guy's built. It doesn't take much. He eventually does land on you. It's going to be a crippling amount of damage. But in the Whittaker fight, he's just very gun shy, super hesitant, never really gets his volume going. And as a result, gets chipped away, gets beat up, and largely loses all 3 rounds against Robert Whittaker. I guess the problem that I have coming in this fight is that he is the favorite. He's never fought 5 rounds, right? He has been booked for a 5-rounder against Jack Hermanson, but he knocked him out in the second. So I don't know that his cardio is necessarily going to translate. He's built so thick, and for a guy that did fight a few weight classes up, the weight cut's probably not the easiest thing in the world. He's 37 years old. Like none of that really makes you feel good about a 5-round opportunity. And then when you look back to the Robert Whittaker fight, super hesitant, and then the longer this fight goes, he starts to get hurt. He gets dropped by a head kick in the 3rd round. He's all type of wobbly, is able to survive, but certainly a 5-rounder would not have benefited him there. And that's kind of the one thing that KG's got going for him. Is he the most talented guy in the division? No, he's super talented, but he is definitely small for middleweight. You got a former welterweight taking on a former heavyweight. Like, how ridiculous does that sound? But he's got pace. He's got the ability to fight 5 rounds. He's fought in 5 rounds a bunch of times. And again, when you look at his body of work, he's a hit or miss kind of guy. He's on the night against Izzy Adesanya. 2-2 going into the 5th. Great performance. Ends up getting seriously banged up in the 5th, but solid. And then the next fight against Till is garbage. The fight against Hermanson, over quick. The fight against Ian Heinisch, he looked good. Pace for days, 6 takedowns. Just kept pushing, grinding. And then it's his last fight against Robert Whittaker. The first round is the same thing as Jared Cannonier. He just can't quite figure out how to get to Whittaker. He's too fast. He's too long. The jab's landing at will. He drops the first 2 rounds, no problem. In fact, he drops the majority of the rounds. I'm just saying, after the first 2 rounds, Kelvin Gastelum comes alive. 3rd, 4th, and 5th are definitely better rounds for him, much closer in the striking department, and he doesn't get tired because he's a smaller middleweight. He does have good cardio for the most part. He can push a good pace, and he does have a wrestling advantage over Jared Cannonier. Cannonier can get taken down. The problem is he's so strong, holding him down, not really going to happen. But Kelvin could mix in those takedowns, mix in some cage control, and all that's going to do is zap some of that energy level out. Once he's a little bit more tired, he's not going to land the big power shots, and he's only going to land few and far between because he's a little just too patient. I think Kelvin Gastelum could hustle him up. A plus 130, I'm going to take the dog shot here. It's a dog or pass main event for me personally, but I also think that there's probably a good opportunity to bet this thing live after KG loses the first round or 2, hoping exactly like I'm saying, he shows up in shape, ready to go, is able to extend this thing longer, get into some deeper rounds, and make it work for him. Honestly, when you watch his fights, there is glimpses of brilliance. He's just got to tie it all together. And for dog money, I'm willing to take that shot, I think.
Kelvin Gastelum's never been knocked out.
Solid chin.
That's the biggest problem here. And yeah, I mean, you basically took most of the points that I had. When I was coming home on a flight, somebody noticed I was making the graphic for this fight, and they were sitting a row behind me, and they asked me, and I hadn't done tape yet. They asked me like who I would pick, because they were like, oh, Cannonier, super crazy knockout artist, and I'm like, without watching tape, I'm like, Kelvin's never been knocked out, so it's like, as the fight gets extended, I basically agree with just about everything that you said. There's no guarantee that Gastelum doesn't win early rounds, and then you miss any sort of opportunity. But yeah, Cannonier is super dangerous, particularly in the first couple of rounds. Against Robert Whittaker, round 3, yeah, he gets dropped. It was like Robert Whittaker's like one mistake in that fight. It's like late in round 3, Cannonier is able to land, but he looks fatigued. The power still translates a bit. But it's like, as we get into a 4th and 5th round, like, I don't have too much faith that 185-pound Jared Cannonier has the gas tank. Like, he's so big, I think he really drains himself to get down there. And this has been a complete career resurgence for him coming up to, or going down to 185 pounds. It put him on the map. Like, he was just like a throwaway. At heavyweight, he was like a guy who would probably be just like straight up cut. And then 205 didn't look like he had too much potential. And then all of a sudden he shows up at 185 pounds and he's like this world beater. But yeah, Kelvin's never been knocked out. Maybe this is the one time that it does happen, but I'm with you. I think gun to my head, like I said to that guy on the airplane, and that was before tape. Now, even after watching tape, gun to my head, I'm betting Kelvin Gastelum at plus 130. But I think I agree with you. I think there could be better opportunity down a couple rounds early, or even if it's close and you're getting like a plus 180 type of situation with Kelvin Gastelum. The longer this fight drags out, the better it is for Kelvin Gastelum. So it's a dog or pass for me as well. Next up,
Paul, one thing. Lists of things not to say on a chartered flight. Gun to my head to the guy behind you.
We had just landed, in fairness. We had just landed. So, yeah. The security probably wasn't listening too closely at that point. But you are correct. I didn't think about it that way. All right, next up, we got Mark Madsen taking on Clay Guida. Mark Madsen, a 165 favor. Clay Guida can be had for plus 145. I mean, initial thoughts here were Mark Madsen's going to absolutely just mollywop him in the first couple of rounds. Just that wrestling is elite. I mean, he's an Olympian. Just absolute stud when it comes to that. I saw Alex Bahunin. I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, but he posted that in a Fight News interview this week. Mark Madsen said that during his last fight, he broke his jaw. Then it got infected and he needed a second surgery. He then got COVID. And then his wife was diagnosed with MS and he had to take care of her. So it's just like, I can understand why money is coming in on Clay Guida. That's a tough situation for anybody to deal with. Mark Madsen has all the skills, but in that Austin Hubbard fight, we saw if he's not able to like put you away and he keeps that type of pace in the wrestling, things got very, very dicey in round 3. Now you add in all of these other things and like, God bless him, tough situation, but it makes me a lot less confident that, the problems that we saw are going to be rectified by this fight. I'll pick Mark Madsen. I think he gets it off early with that wrestling. It is elite, but a lot of these things, like I know he's been at Fight Ready for the last 3 months, getting ready for this fight, and I imagine, he's put in some work, especially on that cardio. But with COVID and taking care of his wife and all these other things on this guy's plate, it's tough to back him in the spot. And it was a spot that I thought I was gonna be all over Mark Madsen, but right now, for me, it's a pass. What about you?
Yeah, and you factor that in. He's had a bit of a layoff. He's had that nasty injury. He's had some personal life issues, and on top of that, he's 36 years old. So, I mean, for whatever it's worth, like I understand the red flags that you're bringing up. For me, though, being at Fight Ready is going to be a huge thing because he's been working very closely with Henry Cejudo, staying with Henry Cejudo, who comes from the same, Olympic quality background. As a wrestler, I just feel like it's a good fit for him. Fight Ready, also pretty much everybody that's been coming out of that gym recently has been making massive strides in their game. And Mark Madsen is clearly a great athlete, clearly a great wrestler. It's just, when is he going to be able to get those other skills that are required for mixed martial arts? And at 36, can he do it? But remember when he went to the UFC Performance Institute a few years back, and he was 34 at the time, they ran him through like the gauntlet of tests, and pretty much all the trainers there, he's like, scientific approach, like tied him up to the machines, did everything. And they were just like, this guy's an incredible athlete in like wicked peak physical shape. So I know that the guy is a high caliber operator. I just agree. It's like, he's probably fairly one-dimensional in that wrestling approach. Him versus Austin Hubbard last time out, he scores 5 takedowns in the first round. He won that first round, Paul. He landed 0 strikes, 0 significant strikes. He was marked down as 0. In the second round, I think he landed 9. And in the third round, he lands like 4 or 5. So for a total of 15 significant strikes throughout 15 minutes, it's a really bad look. You see him work mitts on some of his social media stuff. And again, he kind of looks robotic and super uncomfortable. His head's in the air. He's kind of standing a little bit flat-footed. He's got very little footwork, but it's all predicated on throw a couple punches and shoot that takedown, shoot that takedown, shoot that takedown. And I think he could have a lot of success doing exactly that in this spot. I mean, with Austin Hubbard, he was getting the takedowns with ease. Mm-hmm. Hubbard was working his way back up and then making him pay. He wins the first round very easily. The second round, he's starting to fatigue, but even fatigued, he's still completing these takedowns. And in the third round, he's extremely gassed out. His jaw's broken, as you mentioned. He's hurt. He's tired. He's in deep waters. He's never been in a spot like this. It's the second fight in the UFC. Things aren't going his way. And yet he does persevere and still actually gets a few more takedowns. He's not able to do anything with that top control, but, it was still good to see him persevere and fight through. With Clay Guida's been exposing guys, right? If you shouldn't be in the UFC, Clay Guida is going to find a way to beat you. I just don't know that Mark Madsen falls in that same category. His wins are over Michael Johnson, 4-fight losing streak, probably very close to getting cut. BJ Penn, I believe he's released from the promotion, just almost got killed in a water pool engine room. Joe Lozon retired. Eric Koch serving a 2-year suspension, pretty much retired. Robbie Peralta retired. Tetsuya Kawajiri, maybe he's hanging out in Japan, likely retired. Those are his wins. He beats guys that are retired. He beats guys that are at the tail end. Right? His losses when he slightly does step up are good level guys, but I still go back to like the Jim Miller fight. You can out-hustle this guy. You can score takedowns. You can grind on him. Clay Guida is 38 years old now. And what's his best weapon? He's got good cardio and he wrestles. Durability. He can wrestle and he can put some durability on you. Yeah. The durability, it scares me. The cardio, it scares me. But the fact that he's primarily a wrestler, the fact that he's primarily trying to lean on you, I feel like Madsen's going to be able to win those wrestling exchanges. This thing's largely a wrestling match between two wrestlers. Slight striking advantage to Clay Guida, but Clay's also got 50 fights under his belt. And you know what? He was known for legendary cardio. Does not stop. And now you do see him get fatigued in that third round. Now you do see, the glory days are behind him. He's still game. He's still the Carpenter. He's still a fan favorite. But you do still start seeing the writing on the wall for Clay Guida. I think Mark Madsen can come come back here off the shelf. I know he hasn't fought in a while, but I think that he can just turn this into just a straight up wrestling match and get the job done. I will mention one thing, however, before we move on, and I know this goes against why would you even pick this guy, but he's known for this legendary wrestling, right? I mean, this guy's such a good wrestler. He was a silver medalist at the 2016 Olympic Games in Rio. That's super badass. He was also competed at the World Championships 5 times and got 4 silver medals and a bronze. He was at the European Championship, he got a bronze. He's at the World Military Championships, he got a silver medal. He's at the Cadet European Championships, he got a silver medal. He's actually not won gold in any major international tournament.
What a bum.
And no, that guy's a super fucking good wrestler. I'm saying he's got like 6 or 7 silver medals. Like how?
Well, you don't have to be the gold medalist to be Clay Guida, a 38-year-old Clay Guida.
Which is why I'm going to end up taking Mark Madsen here. I think his wrestling's still good enough to beat a 38-year-old journeyman, and it'll do fine here. But moving forward, all those issues that you brought up, I think will eventually turn their ugly head. I just don't think it's on Saturday. 2
quick things to add. All right. One, I just wanted to add on that, in the Michael Johnson fight, Clay Guida, it's like whenever things got a little bit dicey, 100% went right to the wrestling. Like, I mean, that's how you beat Michael Johnson, but
of course,
that's not going to work this time out. 2, what about Madsen by sub plus 550, DraftKings Sportsbook?
So that was the other thing I meant to mention, right? Is that Clay's got a nasty habit of leaving his neck out there. And he's done it time and time again. Jim Miller, it's a 58-second guillotine choke. Charles is Charles, but still, he puts his neck right in that guillotine choke. Brian Ortega, not necessarily that one. The Thiago Tavares fight, 39 seconds into the guillotine choke against Dennis Bermudez, a rear naked. But so he typically puts his neck right into the harm's way of the guillotine choke. 100% you're right on that. So when I was doing the tape study on Marco Madsen, is that he loves to attack the neck, and he attacked the neck pretty nice against Austin Hubbard. He's going for it.
A little bit inexperienced with closing the show, but maybe at a new camp, adding some new skills. I mean, this could be a spot where he gets it done. You're getting a plus 550. I mean, the decision's probably the more likely outcome, but that decision prop, if he gasses in round 3, you're going to be really, really shaking in your boots at that point.
Yeah, that's fair. Is that I wanted Madsen by decision. The reason I didn't pull the plug on that is like, one, if he gets tired in the 3rd round, who knows? But also is that I read the same thing you're saying. He could snatch up the neck in one of these wrestling transitions. If Clay thinks he's getting tired, and Clay, it's a pride thing. You want to go in there and, dude, I'm going to take down an Olympic silver medalist. So you end up shooting a takedown, right? Is that the smart move? Probably not. But it's an ego thing. I want to take this guy down. Clay will probably shoot a few takedowns. And in transition, in scrambles, he tends to leave his neck out there. Marco Madsen, certainly for the first round, is really strong, dude. You seen him pick up Austin Hubbard with that first belly-to-back suplex arm in? It's like DC comes in his pants, DC has to run out between rounds 2 and 3 to change really quick because it was like a beautiful slam, but he had no top control out of that, right? A year off, training at a better camp, coming in good shape. If he just shores up a few of those mistakes and can get a little more time on top, I think that'll be all it requires to beat Clay.
All right, moving on down, we got Chase Sherman taking on Parker Porter. Chase Sherman, a minus 190 favorite. Parker Porter can be had for plus 160. Chase Sherman, interesting path here. Is early on in his career, during his first UFC run, I used to come on this program and refer to him as the worst fighter in the UFC. I don't think that's entirely true anymore. Maybe that's partially because there's considerably lesser talents that have been around, but he was like a 24-year-old heavyweight back in those days. He's obviously put in a lot of work on his game. The fight with Andrei Arlovsky, crafty old vet who's went out there and beaten all of these up-and-comers for many years. It was a little bit dicey, but he lands 88 significant strikes in that fight. The volume is always high, and he's got great leg kicks. Parker Porter obviously comes in. Dawkins was landing leg kicks at will against him early on in that before he ends up finding the finish. And then the following fight up against Josh Parisian. I mean, you just get in Parisian's face. Parisian likes throwing spin and shit and unorthodox maneuvers. It's just you can't do any of that if you're just right up in his grill the entire fight. And props to Parker Porter. He comes through as a solid size underdog in that spot. But I think Chase has a massive athleticism advantage in this spot. I think he's gonna really go on to those. The leg kicks are gonna be key to him, particularly early in the fight. And I guess against Arlovsky, he wasn't throwing that leg kick because it seemed like he banged his leg up trying to kick so many times. But I don't know. I think this is Chase's fight to lose. Like the minus 190 doesn't seem too far off to me. And yeah, I think it's just a good spot for Chase, the Vanilla Gorilla. I can't believe I'm touting him after the history we've had, but I think Chase Sherman gets the dub here. What about you?
Yeah, honestly, this is a greasy spot. And I did consider a dog or pass type situation for this in that we've got two middling heavyweights. And whereas Chase Sherman does have the goods and could potentially end this thing early, yeah, something's just got me worried that it's going to end up being a lot closer than a lot of people think. So when you look at him coming back to the UFC, because this is his second stint with the organization, but he fights Ike Villanueva's first time out. Now he beats Ike Villanueva, second round TKO, and looks good doing so. And actually test positive for anastrozolone afterwards, right? So the win stands as a win. I don't know why it's not a no contest, but he got a 9-month suspension out of it. Now, when you read up on this stuff, it increases testosterone levels in males and has been studied as an alternative method to androgen replacement therapy in men with hypogonadism, which means your balls are shrinking up from steroid use. So you would use this to give yourself some more testosterone and probably grow back the size of your nuts. Right. So that's what Chase Sherman was on for that. And he gets suspended for 9 months. Now he comes back
in and just say something really quickly?
Absolutely,
I didn't know that you were going in this direction. No.
Yeah.
He had severe back knee. I noticed that. Rewatching the Arlovsky
fight. I'm getting there, brother. I'm getting there.
Filled with it. Sorry, I didn't know if you were going to get there, but I did notice that. Yeah. I didn't know about the other thing that he had been dinged for.
Paul, my man, not only does he test positive in the fight prior, and again, people don't think about it because it's listed as a win, whereas normally you see the no contest, and then you'll go, oh, that's right. No, but he did test positive, and he got a 9-month suspension. So now the Arlovsky fight, right from the get-go, his back is covered with back knee. But Paul, the back knee is so bad. Arlovsky presses him up against the cage rakes his back, and the back knee starts to bleed.
Gross.
You watch the second and the third round of that fight, and there's blood trickling down his back from just the back knee, like the scabs have just been brushed off against the cage. Now, like cage burn, it's a real thing, but most people don't bleed from it, right? Super gross. But what you'll notice in that Arlovsky fight is he looked deflated. He didn't look nearly as good as he did in the Ike Villanueva fight. And to that effect, he actually rocks Arlovsky hard at the end of the first round. Wins the first round, lands, 4 or 5 solid punches, but lands his 4 or 5 best punches. And Arlovsky takes all of them, which is, he's not chinny, but still Arlovsky took all of his best punches. Now in the second and the third round, now his output starts to fall off. And you mentioned he stopped kicking. Arlovsky did an excellent job of kicking his lead leg, causing him to switch stances. And I don't know if that's maybe why he wasn't kicking out of that stance, but his own lead leg was chewed up. It was a close fight. It could have gone either way. Arlovsky was the rightful winner. And Arlovsky took that fight on a week's notice, by the way, stepping in for Parker Porter.
Yeah.
So
in the corner too. In the corner, in between rounds 2 and 3, like he's basically quit on himself. He's like, I can't, like to his coaches, they're trying to rile him up. They're like, you need this round. The only way that you win this fight is at the very least, you got to win this round. And he seems like pretty defeated in that corner.
He's between rounds defeated, 2 and 3. Yeah. And this is Andre Arlovsky, not a known power puncher, but a savvy veteran, like you touched on, right? And Arlovsky took the fight on a week's notice. You should be in shape, right? You just won your last fight in the UFC. You're back in the organization. You're a young heavyweight. And totally, mentally, he just doesn't seem in it. You look at some of his previous UFC losses, right? Justin Willis hustles him up, right? His bare knuckle boxing loss. Joey Beltran fucking batters him around the ring. Like, those are not exactly high-level losses that we can be like, hey, we'll give you a pass on that, no problem, right? He is an extremely limited guy. And for a guy that's 6'4", he does not use his reach at all. He just crashes forward. And so again, when I think about Parker Porter, it's like, it's easy to laugh about the guy because he's 6 foot, he's got the big titties. No shame in that. He's a big boy, right? He doesn't exactly look like your typical fighter. He's got the mustache, but I will tell you the key difference between both these men is that you got one guy doubting himself on the stool against Andre Arlovsky, and Parker Porter, there's nothing more than this guy wants than to win. He is in it to win it. And so you watch his debut against Daukaus, he gets dropped hard. Right hand, Daukaus' hand's way too fast, sets him up, beautiful right hand, Parker Porter drops. He could quit right then and there. He gets back up. He takes a secondary barrage, right hand again, smokes him. And on his way down, he eats a follow-up clean knee right to the face, right? Like, talk about an ending sequence. He took some big shots, and he did attempt to persevere right to the end. Referee mercifully stops it, right? Then this Josh Parisian fight. In the first round, he gets rocked. He's rocked in there. And you know what he does? He perseveres. He comes right back through. The first round is a herkadirk. The second, and after the first round, Parker Porter looks completely exhausted. Both of them look exhausted. Second or third round, he catches a second win. And so he starts pressing forward with his own leg kicks. And his leg kicks are landing solid. Totally takes out Parisian's lead leg. He presses him up very well against the cage, something that we know Chase Sherman is susceptible to. He chases for takedowns, ends up getting 2 of them down the stretch. His ground game looks much improved. And honestly, the guy's got some solid durability to him. And I think that would be key. When you look at that last fight in particular against Josh Parisian, because you want to talk about numbers for what they are, he lands 124 significant strikes on Josh Parisian.
Parisian lands a bunch too, though.
114. It's a 126 to 114. You look at the first round, he gets outstruck 55 to 46, right? Crazy. But in the second round, he lands him 30 to 24. In the last round, this is the third round, Paul. This is a 260-pound heavyweight, okay, who's a big boy who hasn't seen the second round or the third round in like 2-3 years, right? He lands 50 of 90 significant strikes in the third round. Yeah. He pushes like a motherfucker. And so that's my worry here. Chase Sherman's going to look like $1 million for the first 2 or 3 minutes. Then Chase Sherman's going to start looking like $500,000 for that last end of the round. Second and third round, if it makes it that far, there is a world where he's more mobile and he is faster. He's got better footwork. And I agree with all that. He's a better athlete. But I also see a world where he starts to tire, and Parker Porter stays in his face. He lands the leg kicks. He slows him down. He lands that big chop and overhand right. He does an excellent job of exploding on straight lines. The problem is that guys like Daukaus move linearly. So you explode with the 2-3 punch combination. He sidesteps and moves out of the way. Sherman doesn't sidestep. He moves straight back. So those barrages, that little bit of wrestling in between, that trying to push a pace on the guy, that makes him a live underdog. I would have straight up pulled the trigger already. The only one thing that just has me more worried is that he pulled out of this exact same fight 4 months ago. Was it injury? It's undisclosed. Was it injury? Was it COVID? I wish it was COVID because he's recovered, but did he hurt something? I need him in 15-minute shape, Paul. If he's in shape the way he was against Parisian, he's live. But I can't bank on that for sure.
And it's going to be hard to look at the weigh-ins and be like, oh, yeah, he looks great. Because, like, you know what he's going to look like. He's a thick fella.
But what we don't know, my friend, is what Chase Sherman's back is going to look like. So definitely watch the weigh-ins before you play that one. I'll leave you with one that might sound crazy, but just before we move on, I honestly see the fight going the over 1.5 minus 165. And I think fight goes the distance at plus 155. Sounds crazy. Not crazy at all, right? Parker Porter is not one of these guys with huge power. The finishes he's had on the regional scene are usually second or third round. He hustles you up. And even the Parisian fight, he hits him with everything. Doesn't knock him out. Sherman, meanwhile, is a big boy and does have knockouts over low-level guys. But if it doesn't materialize in the first, his power falls right off a cliff, similar to the Arlovsky fight. And it will be another 3-rounder. So at plus money, plus 165 in some spots, I actually don't mind this thing banking in some rounds.
The over 1.5 could be a decent little parlay piece because I'm talking to you to try to get some parlay pieces going because there are some other spots I like down the card. This next fight, we've got Trevin Jones taking on Saidyokub Kakhramonov. I hope I pronounced that right. It's a mouthful. We need to get this guy a nickname. Watching a little bit of tape on him, I mean, he took on Cousin Umar. And honestly, he looked pretty good in that PFL fight. Like, we know how good Umar Nurmagomedov is. This guy's going to be a problem in this division for a long time. Like, this is a rare situation where coming in on short notice and honestly, it's been a really rough run for Trevin Jones in terms of, cancel. He had Tony Kelly lined up, then Ronnie Lawrence, and then Mana Martinez. And he gets this, just like, I don't know if he got that much of an easier fight. There are no odds on this fight, but if there's a big dog number to be had, I would be interested because I think we've seen the holes in Trevin Jones's in his game. And really, like, he's kind of gotten away, like, losing a bunch of these fights and then finding a knockout. It's just like if that doesn't materialize and you're getting a big number on Kakhramonov, this could be a really good spot. I will say that Kakhramonov's last time out, it was a 135-pound fight, and he came in at 137.6. So maybe you miss out on like any sort of like really, really wide opener and wait to see like how this guy comes in on short notice, whether he's able to make weight or how that all works out. But without seeing any sort of lines, I'm expecting Kakhramonov to be a sizable, maybe like a plus 200 underdog, and that's the side I would be drawn to. What about you?
Yeah, I would say that the opener on Jones will be between minus 260 and then it'll swell up to about minus 325, I would think. But yeah, you can't overwrite Kakhramonov. This is actually probably tougher fight than he would have had in his last scheduled meeting. But the cool thing with Trevin Jones is that he clearly don't give a shit. He'll fight anybody. Like, would you fight this guy? Sure. Okay, this guy's out. You fight this guy? Yeah. Okay, this guy's out. You fight that guy? Okay. Like, he's game. And honestly, I mean, he's definitely filling into his own. This is the crazy thing about Trevin Jones when you consider him just a few years back in the PXC regional scene over like in Guam, is that he doesn't knock out anybody. He has very little punching power. And a lot of these are just decisions, right? Him versus Ricky Camp, split decision win. Him versus Toby Misich, split decision win. Him versus Kwan Ho Kwak, split decision loss. Him versus Kyle Agwan, split decision win. Him versus Yojin Kwang, split decision loss. Him versus Rodrigo Prala, split decision loss. He's got 6 split decisions? Like, oh my God. But they're close fights. And they're close fights. Sometimes they think he wins. Sometimes they don't think he wins. When he jumped into the UFC against Timur Valiev, he's dead man walking on the green mile. He's a plus 430 underdog. His regional scene career has not shown you nearly enough. And Timur Valiev is actually a very decent fighter. The first round, it looks like he's exactly the underdog everyone thought he was. I mean, he could have got stopped in the first round. A lesser referee would have stopped it. But in the second round, that's when it's like, oh, these are the calling card. This is like the hallmark of his career is that he's super durable and he does not quit. And then he stretches these fights later and then is able to capitalize. Whereas we didn't see power on the regional scene, at least against Timur Valiev, he shows it off. Now against Mario Batista. Batista, my boy. Love Mario Batista. Guy can do it all. He's out of the MMA lab. He can wrestle. He can strike. He's explosive. He's got good footwork, solid guy, grinder, good level of experience already at this stage of his career. And in the first round, Batista fights a very solid first round. I'd give it for him. Trevin Jones not out of it, showing some glimpses, but I give it the first round to Batista. And then shit, dude, it's the same thing. In the second round, he just detonates on him. Like absolutely KOs my boy Mario cold. It's like you can't overlook what he's got. Now, it's not just this explosive KO power. It's not just that he looks incredibly in good shape and strong now. It's that he's also a BJJ black belt, I believe, under Robert Drysdale. He's full-time at Las Vegas right now, and he's got a lot of tricks up his sleeve that we just haven't even seen yet to this point. So him versus Tony Kelly is a walk in the park. Him versus Ronnie Lawrence, again, Ronnie, my boy. Ronnie got quick lateral movement, great footwork, rangy guy with his kicks, and got good wrestling as well. I think Ronnie gives him fits. He could win. Mana Martinez, I didn't even get time to tape study that one. I assume that, Jones would have won, but all the same. Now you get Kakhramonov. So how do you prepare for all these different opponents? Probably don't. You're probably just staying in shape and getting ready, and that poses a few issues. But I think he's got him outgunned. Kakhramonov would have to be able to get this fight to the ground consistently, which I don't think he's strong enough to do. And even if he was able to do so, Jones has got a legitimate BJJ black belt under his belt. So he's going to be more than fine if he was to hit the ground. Kakhramonov striking, nice. Got some solid power in both hands. He likes to lunge him with the left hook. But a lot of it is throw 2 combinations to shoot under the takedown. In fact, that's what he does best. He'll throw 2 or 3 punches at a time and shoot under that second or third strike right into a double leg, get you up against the cage, maybe look for a trip, but mostly just pull his opponents to the ground. Looking at him, though, he plays second in New York State as a senior in high school and then vanishes, goes to Illinois, briefly attended a community college. Although this one's kind of embarrassing, he lists his college on Tapology as Ellsworth Community College. Only college is not spelled with an A, so it was definitely a community college. But he doesn't even wrestle at Ellsworth either. Now he jumps into MMA. He's initially in Illinois. Pandemic happens. He boots over to Team Oyama. He's just kind of been all over the place. Level of competition, okay. The Umar fight, legit. Now this Pipe Vargas fight, first round he wins, or first round he loses, sorry. Actually, I'm totally wrong on that. The first round he wins for sure. The second round's a lot closer. Pipe Vargas is starting to stuff these takedowns and work his way back into it. That's where you see he's limited with the striking. That's where you start to see he's vulnerable a little bit. In the third round, he gets the takedowns again. He is on his way to probably winning this fight. And Vargas gets back up and bombs him with a flying knee. And I mean, KO'd stiff is an understatement. He is stiff, man. Like, scary looking knockout. He does rebound with a pair of knockouts of his own. He's still young. There's no real damage there. He's still only, 25 years old. This is all good stuff. Promising enough fighter. I just think it's a very tough debut for a guy. If his durability is into question, Trevin Jones is the wrong guy to be fighting. If you're relying a lot on this grinding your opponents, Trevin Jones is the wrong guy to be fighting. And if you slow down after a round or two, Trevin Jones is the wrong guy to be fighting. So Trevin Jones is going to be the favorite. I'm going to agree, but I don't have an odds in front of me. So I don't know if it's like, if there's value on a try to potential fade. Like, listen, it's not impossible for Kakhramonov to win. He's definitely live, but you're going to want a good plus money tag. Don't be getting him at plus 160, plus 170. I think you should be able to do better than that.
Yeah. You probably do better than that on this next fight. We got Austin Hubbard taking on my boy, Vinc from Hell Pichel. He's back, and somehow over the years, he's over 9 years, he's only fought 8 times in the octagon. But I'm 8-0 picking Vinc Pichel. So, we're putting this on the line. I've already made a bet on it. How do you beat Austin Hubbard? You have a better grappling. You have better grappling than him. Push him forward. Don't let him strike at range. Kid's got really good cardio, and he was able to exploit my boy Max Roshkov, who's back. We're back in business there, at least. At that level we are. He was able to, after round 1, where Roshkov looked like the touted prospect that I was saying that he was, and before the complete embarrassment for myself and probably him, he was doing everything that you should against Austin Hubbard. The Marco Madsen fight, same type of thing. Rounds 1 and 2 Madsen was able to completely control him. Wrestling was a huge key. Absolutely control him and do a lot of great work. You got 8 takedowns, I believe, in those 2 rounds. You just got to have the cardio to keep it up, because round 3, Madsen slows down. My boy Vinc, he's got that cardio. He's got that old man strength. He is 38. The Jim Miller fight, it got a little bit dicey, but, when push came to shove, he was able to end up on top at the end of round 3. And Jim Miller is a legit black belt, subs so many guys over the course of his career. I think we see a lot of cage control for Vinc. I think we see a lot of, pushing forward. Hopefully the takedowns are there. I don't know if the subs are going to be there, but the big difference in some of these other spots where Austin Hubbard's had glimpses of success against grapplers is, I think, Vince's cardio. He's training at Factory X Muay Thai for this fight. I think the cardio is going to check out for him training at elevation, even more so than usual. He is 38. It wasn't the most pretty fight against Jim Miller, but he persevered. I think this is Pichel's fight to lose. What do you think?
You know what, dude? It was actually not a pretty fight against Jim Miller or a pretty fight versus Roosevelt Roberts. But what he does in both those spots is he loses the first round and he does not stop coming, man. And he'll strike with you when he has to, and he grinds on you when he has to. But in both spots, he gets the takedown when he needs it. And when he gets the takedown, there is no better guy than Vinc Pichel. Him on top is a problem. He's super strong. Not only that, he is a BJJ black belt. So when he eventually gets these guys to the ground, he flattens them up, he tires them out, he chips away at them, and he just dominates them. That's what he's able to do against Jim Miller. Lose the first round, gets that takedown in the second. The third round, it's anybody's fight, but it's Vinc who gets the takedown. It's Vinc who ends up on top. It's Vinc who does the damage. The same thing with the Roosevelt Roberts fight. You lose the first, the second's really close, but that late takedown seals it for Vinc. And now there's a minute or 2 left in the third. Who wants this thing more? Vinc wants this thing more. I know he's 38 years old, but you've done extremely well banking on this guy. And listen, it's not like, we've had Vicente Luque. We've cashed, I think we're 15-1 of Vicente Luque tickets, but it's a lot of it's plus 300 or minus 300, minus 400, big favorite. Vinc has always been plus money for you. Plus 105, plus 110, plus 115, plus 135.
Oh my God.
You cash him as a plus 225 against Anthony Njokwani back in the day. And you were right and I was wrong on that fight. And I hope that's the case here, because I'm tempted to go Hubbard, but I understand Vinc has got a solid path, and you got an excellent read on him. He needs to do exactly what he did in those last 2 fights. He's probably going to overcome a bit of a slow start. He needs to get those takedowns. When he gets those takedowns, you're right. That's where he'll have a lot of success. My only one worry is that he's a little too hesitant to get to the takedown sometimes. In these fights, he knows that's his clear advantage. And yet he strikes a little too much standing. He takes a little too much damage standing sometimes. He's a little bit slow and lethargic, loading up on some power shots, sometimes standing. When he gets in that clinch, when he grinds on you, when he ends up on top, that's the money. Just sometimes he waits a little too long to get to those spots. That's the path for sure against Austin Hubbard. Hubbard's given up 3 takedowns against Davi Ramos. He gave up 8 against Marco Madsen. He gave up 2 against Roshkov. He didn't even need to give up 1 to Joe Selecki. Joe Selecki just took his back standing. And then he got taken down by Dakota Bush his last time out. He also probably lost the first round to Dakota Bush, getting outstruck. Like, there's big issues in his game all around. But you know what wins Austin Hubbard fights? Is that when his opponent starts to tire and starts to wilt, Hubbard trains at altitude. He's still there. And he keeps coming, and he generally wins these fights in the ladder. He's losing to Roshkov, and then Roshkov quits once he starts to get tired. Madsen fight, he gets dominated the first round, better second round, but loses, comes on hard in third. The Dakota Bush fight, he loses the first round, much better second, very good third round. Vinc is not the kind of guy that goes away after a round. And so that's a big issue as well. This is an even money fight. It's lined pretty much the same. I think you could go both ways. However, I'm going to have faith in my boy. He hasn't done you wrong so far. And I do think he's live in the spot regardless. It's not like it's not a blind tail. I think Vinc has got legitimate shots. Just, I'd love for him to get after that wrestling early and often. And hopefully the time at Factory X helps him out.
I just noticed this at DraftKings Sportsbook. I mean, they are the sponsor of this show, but for all the people who be like, oh, it's always a problem. They dropped, and this just looks like a bad line. I would get on it while I can. Pichel by submission, 20-1. I see him at plus 575 at another book. That is worth a sprinkle. I mean, I'm already in a medium-sized bet on Pichel money line, but if somebody else, right now not available in Canada, unfortunately, but I am just like foaming at the mouth looking at Pichel by sub. Not the decision I think is more likely, but that is. They fucked up, so go hit that, man. Pichel by sub 20-1 is an egregious number that hopefully I can get a little taste of myself.
Pacquiao versus Ugas is this weekend, and DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app, has a knockout offer for this fight. DraftKings is offering, get this, 100-1 odds on a punch being landed at any point during the fight. Just pick the fighter you think's going to win, and DraftKings Sportsbook will give you 100-1 odds on a punch being landed during the event. That's right. Bet $1 on either fighter, and if a punch lands during the fight, you will cash $100 in free credits. There's no better way to put your boxing knowledge to the test than to put your money where your mouth is with DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code DOP when you sign up to turn $1 into $100 in free credits when you bet on either fighter to win and a punch is landed during the fight. Place your bet and watch the fist fly this weekend. That's code DOP, Dogger Pass Podcast, to turn $1 into $100 in free credits only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older, New Jersey, Indiana, and Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Or in Indiana, 1-800-9-WITH-IT.
All right, next up, we got Alexandre Pantoja taking on Brandon Royval. Minus 165 Pantoja, plus 145 Royval he got.
Yeah, honestly, this one's got me bugged. Like, I could see a path of victory for both guys. I don't know that I would straight up make it a dogger pass, but Royval looks to have the skills to give Pantoja fits. The problem is, like, experience level. I mean, a lot of the guys that he's beaten are really on Pantoja's level, and Pantoja's mixing it up with some of the best guys in the sport. So, whereas Pantoja obviously sometimes looks pedestrian in there, he looks pedestrian against the best guys in the sport. Whereas Royval beat Tim Elliott. It was that Tim Elliott, by the way, partying on the strip. Kakhramonov, who people largely believe is a bust. And he did get knocked down by Kakhramonov. And then his last time against Brandon Moreno, he started out pretty good, I thought. But Brandon Moreno has a way of not going away. And, that type of tenacity was able to eventually break him. So he's 1-2 in the UFC. He hasn't fought in a year. I would say the year off probably good for him. He's only 29. Surely he's still making improvements. Surely he's still getting better. But with Pantoja, I mean, it's a who's who of guys. Who's he losing to exactly? Askarov? Okay. He's a top 5. He's very legit. Davidson Figueiredo, you mean the number 2 guy in the world, the former champion, guys who had him on the pound for pound list, well, who else is beating him? Dustin Ortiz, the scramble master of the world. He's lost to just the absolute best guys for the most part. And again, he has solid wins as well. The Manel Cap fight, he seemed way too hesitant, but looking at the striking numbers, apparently they credit him with 74 significant strikes landed. So Number's not that bad. His thing is that he can do it all. He's legitimate BJJ black belt. He's got some solid takedown defense. He's got some solid enough wrestling overall. Like his takedown offense is pretty decent as well. And his striking is good, good, not great. There's room for him to improve in every one area, but he's pretty advanced in every area as well. So with Brandon Royval, it's like, I do think he's going to be faster, have better footwork, maybe be a little bit longer, maybe be able to beat him to the punch. But with Pantoja, if you're not going to knock him out early, again, he's going to be one of these guys that's going to wear on you. And with Royval, a lot of it seems to be it's quick work. He's able to catch Tim Elliott in the second round with the guillotine. He catches Kakhramonov in the second round. Sorry, his arm triangle over Tim Elliott, second round guillotine over Brandon Royval. And then the Moreno fight, by the end of the first, he's cooked. He's gassed out, right? So he's not going to catch Pantoja with a quick submission. Highly unlikely. So as a result, if he's going to beat him, barring a flash knockdown of some type, he's going to have to grind this guy for 15. I just don't think he can. Whereas I think it'll be the other way around. I think Pantoja is more than ready to go 15 minutes. And even if he has a slow start to the fight, maybe drops the first round, he should be able to work his way back into it. A minus 165, not a terrible price tag, but I think I'll end up going with Pantoja.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think a lot of what I see from Brandon Royval, it's a lot of flashy maneuvers. He does look like, crisp and like it's fun. He's every single one of his fights super entertaining, but I don't think he's going to knock him out. As you said, Pantoja, legitimate black belt. Obviously, Brandon Royval had that shoulder surgery as well, coming out of the Moreno fight. And the entire time he was like fighting off a arm and triangle, right? So I think, I agree with you. I wanted to wait before I made any sort of play on it, but Alexandre Pantoja is a guy I am circling in this spot. Next up, we got Luis Saldana taking on Austin Lingo. Saldana minus 120 favorite. Lingo can be had 4+ 100. This is like a sneaky little potential like fight of the night. I don't think either one of these guys has like upper echelon type of talent or potential or anything like that, but this should be a fun banger. Luis Saldana, kind of a light on the feet. I mean, his striking's almost kind of like Brandon Royval. He's like very light on the feet, in and out of the pocket, throws a lot of spinning shit, which will come in handy because Kilburn against Lingo last time out was landing some spinning shit on him. Whereas Lingo, you kind of have more of like a technical boxer. He moves forward, throwing those hands. I think like it really has the makings of a good fight, unless one guy potentially has a massive grappling advantage. But from watching tape, I didn't really see it. So right now, like leaning towards Saldana, he's just gonna have the more like crowd pleasing. I know there's no crowd in the Apex, but more like crowd pleasing types of strikes will be landed by him. But I think it's going to be a barn burner altogether. I would not be shocked to see Austin Lingo get his hand raised, just staying in his face and just landing, the crisper, cleaner strikes. But Luis Saldana is my pick. No bet. What about you?
Yeah, you know what? So the last time that a Saldana fought was in the Apex against Jordan Griffin, and widely considered by most people that he lost the fight. But like you said, it's that flash, it's that razzmatazz. There's no live crowd, so you're just sitting there watching it with just your own thoughts, and it looks good. So that's one thing about him, is that he's able to land some of those flashier strikes, and oftentimes in close fights that go to decision, this is likely going to be close and competitive, and it's likely going to decision. Sometimes that's the difference. Luis Saldana had a terrible start to his career. Like, this guy's totally turned it around. His first pro loss is to a 12-12 guy, first round rear naked choke. Loses to Justin Lawrence's Deese. He's 8-2. He loses to a 1-1 guy. He's 8-3, loses to a 7-4 guy. He lost to Mike Santiago, UFC veteran, third round knockout. He's 10-5. He loses to Alex Wiggs Jr., who's 3-2. And this is all like as of 3 years ago. This guy's not expected to do much. He comes over to the Contender Series against Vince Murdoch, who I'm always looking to fade Vince Murdoch. Any opportunity you give me, I will do so. So with Saldana, I definitely was like, okay, I'll load up with Saldana. And then as I'm watching the pre-fight thing, he's like, I'm missing a finger. I was like, why did I not bother to tape study this guy? Holy shit, he looked good in that fight, man. He is super mobile. Like, he's very rangy, and he's got an excellent kick game. He has Murdoch, the smaller guy, basically just moving forward, and Saldana easily evades and uses his kicks. That front kick up the middle knocks him out. It's a sweet little knockout. He gets the Contender Series contract, and looks like there's something to him. What you see against Jordan Griffin is like, Yeah, maybe he's still that same guy from the regional scene, but Griffin's got solid aggression. He's always coming forward on you. He's also got a solid grappling game and decent wrestling. So he's able to mix that up against Saldana. And even though the striking was close, slight edge Saldana, there was 4 takedowns for Jordan Griffin. That's what should have secured the victory for Griffin. But props to Saldana. He works the entire time. He gets back up. He lands the better strikes. He keeps this thing close. When you look at Austin Lingo, he's got legitimate boxing. I mean, he was a standout for the LFA organization, heavy power in his hands. And to his detriment, he's finishing guys way too fast. Prior to signing with the UFC, he beats Aaron Webb 13 seconds. He beats Angel Luis Cruz, Luis Cruz, 25 seconds, and then Solo Hatley Jr., 25 seconds. So you haven't fought more than 30 seconds in your last 3 fights, and now you're in the UFC. That's a very difficult spot. What you'll notice in that spot with Yusuf Zalal, though, is Zalal's also a mobile kickboxer. He likes to move laterally, side to side, and evade a lot of the time. And Lingo is just walking forward, and it's easy to matador. And that's what Zalal does. He moves side to side, he kicks him. He's long gone before Austin Lingo can load up on a punch. And then what he does to extreme effectiveness is he mixes in takedowns as Austin Lingo just gets a little too aggressive. That's something Saldana won't do, is mix in the takedowns. But what he can do is just stay on his bicycle. Stay on his bicycle, stay at range, kick this guy, let him march forward, kick this guy, move away. So now Lingo versus Jacob Kilborn, that's his next UFC fight. He does win. It's his last fight. Gets in the win column. That's all well and good. In the first round, this guy's boxing does look good, as advertised. But in the second and the third round, he got tired. He slowed down massively. And Jacob Kilborn, of all people, no longer with the promotion, by the way, makes it difficult. It shouldn't have been that tough against Kilborn. He's not able to knock him out. He's forced to settle in a 3-round decision, and you definitely see him get tired. He loads up on his punches a little too much the later the fight goes, and against Kilborn, it's able to work. Against Saldana, who's going to be able to maintain that distance and just feed you a plethora of kicks, Lingo's going to have to mix in his own offensive wrestling, and I just haven't seen it from him. So I honestly think he gets matadored. Saldana stays at the outside, chips away. Again, this thing's going to be close. It's going to be competitive. What's the line on it goes to decision?
I mean, the over 2.5 is -140.
Yeah, fight goes the distance -125, right? So even that over 2.5 at -135 actually makes a lot more sense than fight goes the distance -125. But the over 2.5, I think this likely going to play out to be a striking battle, but it's going to be more like a sparring session. Lingo's going to try to load up on those big punches, but come up short. Saldana's going to mind his P's and Q's, lands kick from range, and it's going to go 15. That's the way I see it playing. MMA, anything can happen, but my official play will be Saldana.
Saldana did struggle a little bit from Jordan Griffin, who, was just kind of barging forward, trying to be on the bicycle, especially early in that fight. He definitely had some spots where it wasn't, it doesn't seem like his entire game works that way. But I think we're both kind of on the same page. It's a close fight that we don't have a great lean on, but Saldana for us. All right, we got Brian Boom Kelleher taking on Domingo Pilarte, -170. Kelleher. Domingo Pilarte can be had for +150. Domingo Pilarte for bantamweight is enormous. He's got 74-inch reach. He's 6 feet tall. Absurd. Absolutely absurd. Yeah. Brian Kelleher, I saw him posting on Twitter this week, and I'm sure weight cuts are horrible. I mean, I'm a bit of a tubby guy right now, trying to drink a lot of water to right the ship right now. But Brian Kelleher was complaining about weight cutting sucks, and I'm sure it does. But imagine how bad that weight cut is for Domingo Pilarte. The guy is absolutely enormous for the weight class. But Journey Newsom fight, you saw really quickly. Obviously, it was 38 seconds. You saw what he's good at. It's using long range weapons to effect, and he was able to land a couple. I think he's only they only wrote one down as one strike that he was landed, but there was other maybe non-significant strikes that were landed before he gets absolutely flatlined and finished. You got to question whether the weight cut kind of throws him off, whether the weight cut kind of maybe cutting down to 135 is a little bit too much for him in terms of a durability standpoint. And I mean, but the fact of the matter is Kelleher's got it's 10-inch reach disadvantage here, 64 inches to 74 inches. I mean, I think it's Kelleher. Inside the distance, but Kelleher's already on Twitter saying how hard his weight cut is going. Something gets me a little bit nervous about this one, but Kelleher for me, likely inside the distance. He really likes that guillotine, but I don't know. I wouldn't imagine Domingo Pilarte being that much taller. It's going to be easy to snatch up a submission on him or grab that guillotine that he likes to grab on people. Like, you got to get your arm up like another 8 inches above your head to freaking grab this guy's neck. So, yeah, it's Kelleher for me. Like it, don't love it. What about you?
Yeah, I agree, man. I mean, I see him on Twitter complaining about the weight cut, and I hope it's just mental warfare, because if he shows up in good shape, doesn't have a terrible weight cut, and could fight for 15 minutes, this is going to be his fight to win. But with these guys that have fought up, like Kelleher's fought up at 145, now he's got to drop back down to 135 at this stage of his career, mid-30s. It's always going to be tough on you. Pilarte, dude, you nailed the nail right on the head with that one. So he actually fights KO Machado. This is 2014. Sorry, it would be the Joel Scott fight, which is very much next fight, 2015. He weighs in at 136.5, so he missed weight by half a pound. Not a good look, right? His very next fight against Javier Obregon, he weighs 137, so he comes in full pound overweight, right? And then against Chris Pham, the very next fight, he made weight for that one, 35.6. Against Adrian Yanez, 136.3, comes in 0.3 over. So he's actually been struggling for tough weight cuts. He's 6 feet tall at 135 pounds. Yeah, he's been struggling to make this weight for 3 or 4 years now, right? Now he's coming off an 18-month layoff, so he hasn't cut weight in 18 months. His body's naturally getting bigger. Yeah, that's all cause for concern. Here's another thing that's cause for concern for you, even if he does make the weight, right? How much is that taking out of him? Because you look at him versus Vince Morales on the Contender Series, he gets dropped. I mean, right hand, boom. Pilarte hits the deck, and he's able to recover and ends up getting a second-round rear naked choke. But yeah, it looked like he was a little bit suspect in that department. And then his last fight against Journey Newson, like, oh shit, dude, same thing. Journey Newson needed 38 seconds. Journey Newson was high, so it's no contest. That's a legitimate win. And it was the same thing, 38 seconds later. He just lands one overhand right, and Pilarte just hits the deck. So I think part of that is skinny man defense, tall man defense, head right up in the air. But part of that's probably these bad weight cuts, man. He's a big boy. If you would have offered, Brian, Domingo wants to know if you want to fight at 140. Brian's saying yes, 100%. The Kelleher don't give a shit. He doesn't want 20% of the win purse, of your money anyways, because you missed weight by half a pound. Like, he'd rather just take it at 140. Now, 140, Kelleher would probably do better. And you would think Pilarte would as well. But, he's not the one that actively complaining about it. He's just the one that I suspect is probably going to be feeling the effects of it. So, again, he hasn't fought in 18 months since the Journey Newson fight, a fight that he was knocked out pretty quickly in. The fight before that against Felipe Corrales, split decision, and you can 100% make an argument that he wins, but he lands 11 significant strikes through the course of 15 minutes. And they both get 2 takedowns, so it's not like he's just grappling the whole time. Like, come on. The third round, I'll admit, it's a great third round for Pilarte. He spends 4 minutes on his back. But no ground and pound, no real submission attempt, right? It's not a 10-8 because you didn't do anything with the position, even though you knew you were probably losing this fight. Just not enough out of him. And again, the layoff definitely does concern me. With Kelleher, when Kelleher shows up, he's a badass. When Kelleher doesn't show up, he kind of just goes out on his shield a little too early. In this spot, I don't think Pilarte is going to knock him out. I don't think Pilarte is going to catch him early. So Kelleher should be able to establish his superior striking, his better wrestling game. And if the fight does hit the ground, Kelleher is very solid on the ground game as well. I don't want to see Brian on his back with Domingo on top. I don't want to see Domingo throwing that body triangle because you're 6 feet tall. At this weight class, you got long limbs. It's easy to get that body triangle in, and then the guy's not moving. I don't want to see that. But if Kelleher sprawl and brawls him, he's got the better striking. He's a little more stronger, a little more compact, and he should be able to get the win. But yeah, on a card that dogs are going to come through and there's some greasy enough plays on it, he could make it a lot harder on himself than I'd like him to. And for that reason, Kelleher is not like a go-to guy this week, but I do think he's going to get the win.
We got Malecki taking on Josiane Nunes. Malecki is minus 155. Nunes plus 135. Nunes making her UFC debut. Malecki, Swedish Muay Thai champion, was on the Ultimate Fighter way back when. She's obviously only 2-0. Obviously probably has a whole bunch of Muay Thai fights in the past. The volume looked very, very good, and especially for 2 rounds against Macedo last time out. And I mean, she's gonna have a massive size advantage over most people when she gets down to 135 pounds. Like, she's got like a 74-inch reach. I think she had, or no, 72-inch reach, I believe. I don't have it exactly in front of me, but she had like a 10-inch reach advantage against Macedo. Macedo wasn't able to do much with the grappling whatsoever. And watching tape on Nunes here, it's like, this looks like a Brazilian kickboxer. I don't see much grappling whatsoever. So Malecki should be able to land these strikes at range, should have a considerable size advantage over her. She's 2-0. Maybe that's why the line is -155. And there was some concern, like end of round 3 against Macedo. She definitely, the cardio fell off a cliff, but she was throwing 130 significant strikes. You hope that, like, as she develops, they're working on that, and she'll have a little bit better cardio this time out. I think Malecki's kind of scary, but I think Malecki's actually a pretty solid play here. What about you?
Yeah, again, it's a very difficult one to get a read on because with Malecki, she's got all the components to be a good fighter. This is I believe you said Swedish Muay Thai champion. I think I'm going to correct you. I believe it's a Danish Muay Thai champion, but she was a good Muay Thai fighter, right? She's 5'9", which is really big for this weight class, and has a solid 74-inch reach. And yet you see her strike, and it's like sloppy. Does this seem like a champion kickboxer to you? Does this seem like a high-level striker to you? Maybe for this division. But like, there's leaves a lot to the imagination. When she came on The Ultimate Fighter, she had no MMA experience, and as a result, you see she has no ground game. Her debut against Duda Santana, she gives up 3 takedowns, is losing the fight, and then Duda gets tired, she gets the rear naked choke. The Macedo fight, keep in mind, Bia Malecki fought on The Ultimate Fighter at 145 pounds, right? And Veronica Macedo is a strawweight. She could fight very easily at 115. She chooses to fight at 125 and yet moved up to 135 for this fight, taking on Bia Malecki coming down. So, I mean, writing was on the wall for this not to be a good fight for Veronica Macedo, and yet she actually did keep it pretty competitive, took all of her best shots, was actually landing quite a few of her own, and in the third round had her completely exhausted. Definitely not a good look for Bia Malecki whatsoever. When you look at Josiane Nunes, though, this is ridiculous. So Bia Malecki's 5'9" with a 74-inch reach. Josiane Nunes is 5'2" with a 67-inch reach. So not only is she giving up 7 inches in the height department, she's giving up 7 inches in the reach department. So she would really need to grapple. And yeah, again, like you're saying, have you seen her grapple? Like, you just haven't. Actually, that's not a complete lie. She does grapple quite a bit against Dion Barbosa 2 fights back. The fight's, effectively almost 3 years ago now, but I guess 2 years ago now. But she does grapple in that spot. It's just she's mostly on her back. I mean, her game's very limited. When it gets standing, she's throwing combinations, she's coming forward, but it's all just very, very loose going. She wins her next fight, same thing, second round knockout. She does keep coming. She does pressure. She does let her hands go. It's sloppy, but she does throw in bunches. When she does get taken down, she works her way back up. And when she ends up on top, she's looking to ground and pound. But now she gets rebooked against Zara Farron. Hasn't fought in a while. UFC debut. The fight's a catch weight of 139, I think. And Zara Farron came in at like 146. So it got canceled. But again, she made weight. She was going to make weight. She had trained. She had experienced a weigh-in. She had experience being backstage. She experienced some of these things. Listen, if she's made, a few small adjustments and a few small improvements since her time in the Brazilian regional, she could end up on top. Beyond that, she could tire her out and she could sling her with some shots. The one thing and she's only 27, by the way, so no need to think that improvements aren't still being made. The one thing is that huge size discrepancy. Like, to me, it's like I don't really want to pull the trigger on a dog play on Nunes simply because, just so much smaller. But I don't feel safe taking Bia Malecki because she's 2-0, has fought a very low level of competition, hasn't looked particularly good. And I don't know. I just think she spent so much time working on her striking. I'm not completely sold on her takedown defense. Not that Josiane can really wrestle. We haven't really passed on a whole lot of fights lately. We used to pass on 2 or 3 fights per card. We always say, gun to our head, who do you pick? Gun to my head, I think I'm going Josiane Nunes. But the smart play here is probably just pass altogether.
It was like round 2 against Macedo, though. Macedo goes for a takedown. Malecki does hop right to the mount pretty much immediately. She's not able to really.
She's twice her size, and
she's twice Nunes' size here too, though. She's just gonna be so much bigger than everybody. I mean, I think this is actually. I think she's gonna roll, but I mean, do I feel great about it? No, she's 2-0, and she really hasn't fought anybody, but.
That's fair. I mean, her only loss is to Taylor Santos, who's 17-1 and currently looking pretty good in the UFC. But beyond that, when you look at some of these regional show fights that she's had, This is
Yeah,
2019.
it's like
This is
I looked at the
2019.
same, I looked at the same things though. It's just like Diano Barbosa, 3-0, right? When they fought, she's never fought since they fought each other in 2019, and
Yeah.
all of like her opponents were like complete scrubs. Well, I guess she beat somebody with 9-3. The other girl that she beat that was 4-0 at the time of their fight. Well, Kweza Zabonik. I mean, sure, she was 4-0, but her opponents that she had beat were 0-0, 0-2,
Yeah.
0-0, 0-2. So it's just like, I mean, if we throw you in against Kayla Harrison, how do you think that shapes up there, bud?
Yeah. All I'm saying about the regional show stuff, even though it's not high level, is that she fights this Ariel Ribeiro at 155 pounds and then fights Julia Arroyo at 145 pounds before coming down to 135 for her last two. She was more than willing to fight Zara Farron as high as 145 again. So even though she's 5'2", she's going to be a lot bigger than Veronica Macedo was. She's fought as a lightweight previously. And against Bia Malecki, I think if you can match some of her strength, not size, if you can match some of that strength, you take one of her key weapons off the table, you could have success. But yeah, similar to me fighting Kayla Harrison, probably just get fucked up in the first round anyway. So I'm just looking to pass on this fight.
Yeah, if they give me minus 700 Kayla Harrison, I saw you post plus 700. If they give me minus 1,000 Kayla Harrison versus
Did you see the article that I linked?
No
Bud?
offense,
Did you
but
see the article?
my money's on Kayla, man. That girl's jacked, and she's probably bigger.
Yeah, and especially if I was to call her like a pretty woman or something right before the fight starts and just really fucking enraged her, because don't you dare bring up looks into the conversation about fighting ever. And when she yells at the reporter, she's like, "Would you bring up a guy's looks and then tell him he's a good fighter?" I was like,
Sage Northcutt's entire career was that.
Right. Have you ever seen Roger Huerta? Have you never seen Alan Jobin? Do you not know who Luke Rockhold is? How many Calvin Klein models are going to fucking ice you with a two-piece? Come on, it's a compliment. Regardless, that's for a PFL discussion another day. But I think we're on the same, well, we're on different pages. I'm going to go Nunes. You're going to go Malecki. We both agree it's low level. You probably want to pass, but who knows, man? Saturday will be very revealing.
All right, we got William Knight taking on Fabio Cherant. Knight minus 180, Cherant plus 155. Who you got?
Shit, again, I think these last three fights, I'm going to make a case for the underdog. But in Cherant's case, it's just they're not good-looking underdogs. Here's my key problem with William Knight is that, again, he's so muscular, but he's a small little guy in there. Like, he's only 5'10". He comes up very short on the the reach a lot of the time, and he's just not really getting his hands off in pretty much any of these fights. When you see him on the Contender Series, hell, even before the Contender Series, it's a lot of come from behind wins. He's losing handedly to Hardem Alisabek before making a comeback on the Contender Series and winning. He's losing to Jamel Jones before coming back and getting the win. The Cody Brunridge fight, taken down early, comes back and gets the win. And then that Da Ung Jung fight the last time out. So what would have William Knight's advantage been in that spot? Probably his wrestling, right? He's got decent, not good, not even decent, I mean, he's just so jacked that he can get you to the ground. And when he gets you to the ground game looks okay, right? Top control looks okay. His striking, though, against Da Ung Jung, he's just going to be too short. Well, what you saw in that fight was, too short. Da Ung Jung has his way. William Knight only just spams a leg kick. That's it. Leg kick, overhand right. Leg kick, overhand right. Then he stops throwing the overhand right, and it's just leg kick, leg kick. There's no jab. There's no combinations. There's no real work out of you. So at least get this fight to the ground and grind up Da Ung Jung, right? No. Da Ung Jung took him down 8 times, 7 of which were with the exact same outside trip. He just couldn't make adjustments, easily ground and pounded, easily held on the ground. He loses the striking exchanges. It was a terrible performance against Da Ung Jung top to bottom. So now you have this opener, because this son of a bitch opened way too high. Let me just bring it up officially. William Knight open as a minus 325 favorite. Like, what is anybody looking at here? What are you thinking?
I mean, they're looking at Fabio Cherant getting subbed by Alonzo Menafield last time out. And, I mean, Thick Willie, that's... I mean, when he has a wrestling advantage, that's when he's been at his best. Like against Alexa Kamor, he was able to implement that. Like, it was the Da Ung Jung fight. I mean, that one hurt me big time because I basically underestimated Da Ung Jung's ability, and he was just basically like body lock and then to a trip, if memory serves me correct. And he was just able to do this over and over and over. And then I just realized that my money was gone and lost. But when he has a wrestling advantage, he has been able to look, somewhat dominant, for a middling light heavyweight. I think the general mindset, maybe the price was a little bit too wide, but at a minus 325. But I don't know. What's to love about Cherant? Like, what's he really done to make you feel great about it?
Right. So exactly. And I think what this one comes down to is you got William Knight, the devil you know, versus the devil you don't know. William Knight, it's like, oh man, he's suspect, but you've seen some decent performances. You've seen him come back and he's fought in the better level of competition. Fabio Cherant, oh man, his prior to fighting Myron Dennis for the LFA title is like combined record of opponents is something like 3-15. Like he's beaten up some bad guys. And a lot of it's by submission. Yeah, he submits bad level guys, low level opposition. Fine. What's there to like there? On the Contender Series, he has a really hesitant first round. In the second round, he starts to find his range. His striking's not terrible. He needs to get comfortable, and then he walks into a flying knee, like a beautiful flying knee, has him out, hits the ground, all good. He rebounds with 3 straight wins. Not the prettiest of going, but the Myron Dennis fight is a 5-rounder. He does fight 5 rounds. He has a bad 4th round. He perseveres, comes back in the 5th, right? And I just feel like he's probably got a slight striking advantage. He's only 6'1", so it's not like he's going to have that same height that Dong Jung had. But as far as keeping the fight standing, Fabio Cherant probably does ever so slightly outpoint William Knight. William Knight's got the leg kick and the overhand right, but once he comes up short on that, and once he fails to really go to the well over and over, I could see Fabio Cherant being a little bit quicker, having better footwork, and just beating him with the punch ever so slightly. What we need to realize, or what we want to rely on if we're William Knight backers, is that he will eventually get that takedown. Menefield tossed him to the ground like nothing. Menefield Von Prude him. Why wouldn't William Knight go in there and get a hold of him, toss him down the same way? But it's like his wrestling is not the same. He doesn't take guys down. He mostly just waits for them to get tired, and then he ends up on top. Like if he's not able to consistently get to his wrestling and consistently get this fight to the ground, he's going to be in trouble. I haven't quite made up my mind. Like I could see myself going Knight. I could see myself going Cherant, but I'm telling you, these last 3 fights are going to be extremely volatile for potential dog picks, right? The favorite could win, the dog could win, but it's going to be a rough start to the card, I think, for a lot of people's parlays. I just want to be on the right side of it. And yeah, I think gun to my head right now, I guess I'll go William Knight. The line's a lot better. It's not 325 anymore. I believe it's only minus 190, minus 180, right? Yeah, that's a lot better, right? You'd rather get William Knight for a price like that than over 3-1. So at that rate, maybe you bet it. But clearly the money's coming on Fabio Cherant. People hit it at that big plus money because it's the same thing. Just because he's not good doesn't suddenly make William Knight great, right? I mean, they're both very limited. This is fairly low level, and you could see Fabio springing an upset. But yeah, I mean, again, tightly contested one, close. I think gun to my head, I guess I'll go Knight. But watch out for the tweets come Saturday because I'll re-tape study this one a second, third time if I have to till I feel comfortable with it.
Are people really betting Cherant? He seems to be a relative. I'm just on Bet MMA picks. He seems to be a pretty popular underdog at those early odds that were available. All right, yeah, we'll see how it shakes out over the course of the rest of the week. Roosevelt Roberts takes on Ignacio Bahamondes. Roosevelt Roberts a minus 150 favorite. Bahamondes can be had for plus 130. When I look at this fight and I see Roosevelt Roberts, and I mean, we cashed a 10-1 ticket on Jim Miller. Jim Miller round 1, or was it Jim Miller by sub?
Yeah, Jim Miller by submission.
We cashed that when he took on Roosevelt Roberts in that fight. Roosevelt Roberts has a bunch of pretty decent skills. He's really struggled when he has a grappling disadvantage against opponents. I think that's when he's been exposed the most. Everything that I've seen from Ignacio Bahamondes, he's pretty one-dimensional. He's a striker. We were hoping that against John McDessie, that McDessie was going to lean on that grappling a little bit more. That didn't really come to fruition. It was a closely contested fight. McDessie comes away with the win, but I'm staring down the barrel at this under 2.5 plus 140. I feel like Bahamondes, flashy striker, has some decent pop in his strikes, and he's very, very large for the weight class. Or this is a situation where Roberts has a significant grappling advantage. He's able to get it to the mat and finds a sub. I don't really necessarily love a side here, and I haven't bet the under 2.5 yet, but that seems to be where my money's going to go. What about you?
If you thought if you thought a Domingo Pilarte 6-foot bantamweight was a sight to behold, wait until you see this 6'3" lightweight. Like Ignacio Bahamondes is big for this weight class. Good God. But he's just so raw. He's still only 23 years old. He makes a ton of mistakes, but his size is legit. He'll eventually end up as a welterweight, no doubt about that. I mean, he's not going to be able to make this weight forever, but assuming he does show up on the scales and looks in decent shape, yeah, it's going to be a huge weapon for him because Roosevelt Roberts is going to certainly have to mix in his own offensive wrestling and grappling to win this fight. And Bahamondes, what he lacks in wrestling defense, he makes up in sheer size. It's hard to take this guy down because he's so big. It's hard to disrupt his base. It's hard to get him off his feet. And it's hard to just continuously grind. I mean, one thing about him is that he just keeps getting up. He just keeps working, and he throws a ton of strikes. I really do think this one's going to come down to the strike output. When you look at Roosevelt Roberts, he's talented, no doubt about that. What you see is glimpses of a solid game. He starts off on the Contender Series, nice second round rear naked choke. He beat Daryl Horcher. That's a decent win. He finished Horcher faster than Khabib did, I think. Not that means anything. I'm just saying, he's starting off well. He beats Thomas Gifford. This one's a tad bit worrisome to me because he did get taken down by Thomas Gifford, right? Vince Pichel, right, was on the wall. If you're getting taken down by Thomas Gifford, Vince is going to be a nightmare. You're right. The Alexandre Yakovlev fight, he is lucky to have won that. It is a bonehead decision by Yakovlev late in the fight that gives Roosevelt Roberts the win. He did not look good. Against Brock Weaver, he looks good, fine. Against Jim Miller, it's the same shit. So you're right. His takedown defense is a problem. But I'm not looking at his takedown defense as a problem. I'm looking at his striking output. He's a really low output striker. In all of his fights, I know he's finishing a bunch of them, but he goes 15 minutes with Gifford and he only landed 53. He went 15 with Pichel, he landed 31. He went 15 with Yakovlev, landed 28. The Jim Miller fight, I mean, yeah, he got finished before it really got going. And the Kevin Kroom fight, he got finished really before it got going. So we keep seeing grappling is his problem. Kroom caught him with a guillotine. It was a submission defense.
Grappling's kind of
Jim
his
Miller.
skill as well when he's got the advantage in that department.
Yeah, and as far as his striking goes, you'll see it in all his fights. He fights good from the outside. He's a long fighter. He was training with Jalen Turner for a while, and they both kind of have a similar body type. They're long guys. They stay to the outside. They can use that range. But against Bahamondes, your range, it's off the table, dog. Like, you're what, 5'10", taking on a guy that's 6'3"? Like, he's not going to be able to stay to the outside. Sorry, Roosevelt Roberts is listed as 6'2". So yeah, he's got a huge length, but against Bahamondes, it's off the table. His 73-inch reach, usually that comes very effective for him. He's now giving up the 2 inches to Bahamondes. And now you go by the numbers. So again, we've just talked about the fact that in 15-minute spots, he never lands more than a few punches at a time before trying to clinch up and get the fight to the ground. With Bahamondes, meanwhile, he knocked out that Edson Gomez on the Contender Series. It only lasted the second round, 2.5 minutes into the second round. This officially it was 1 second over the over 1.5, right? But anyways, It's a half a fight. Half a fight, he lands 66 with a knockdown. The fight with John Makdessi, he loses. He lands 112 significant strikes. Now, you rewatch the Makdessi fight. Makdessi fights an excellent game plan. He just matadors him. He lands great punches. He gets out. Bahamondes' face is bloody. Bahamondes is tired. Bahamondes has his mouth open, and the fucking kid goes into Terminator mode and just keeps coming after him. I don't think Roosevelt Roberts is going to deal with that as well. I don't think he's going to be able to deal with the numbers in terms of the volume striking. His key to victory here would be hhis offensive wrestling, getting this fight to the ground. But as we mentioned, that tends to be his kryptonite more than his savior.
When he's taking on someone with an advantage there.
Yeah. I just don't think it's going to be as easy to take down Bahamondes and control him. Although it's possible. John Makdessi tried to clinch up a few times with him and just realized, like, shit, this guy's big and he's throwing knees in the clinch. I don't think Roosevelt Roberts is going to want to go down the same way. And sometimes when you see him face some adversity, he curls away a little bit. Whereas Bahamondes, he's a dog on a bone. He really wants it. He's going to keep coming after him. This one really does boil down to a dog or pass for me. And if you're going to give me plus 130 on Ignacio Bahamondes, again, this is a card I see a fair amount of these underdogs coming through. That plus 130 on him, I actually don't mind that.
Yeah, I took the under. I just bet it for a small bet. And finally, we got Ramiz Brahimaj taking on Sasha Palatnikov. We got.
Okay, so this is another one I think could really go either way. I want to make a solid case for the underdog in Sasha Palatnikov, but it's really going to come down to Ramiz Brahimaj's ability to get this fight to the ground. I mean, Brahimaj is touted as a grappler. I think he's got 8 submission victories under his record. No wins by knockout. He's more of one of these guys that needs to get you to the ground and grind you. They're touting him as he won an IBJJF world title, but it was as a blue belt, right? And it was just 2 years ago. So it's not like he's a black belt level competitor. He's young. He's making improvements. But what you saw in the Max Griffin fight was completely non-existent ring IQ. He never even attempted to get into the ground. Why in the fucking world would you want to stand in front of Max Payne Griffin?
He tried.
Okay.
He just wasn't fucking close. Max Griffin just proved to be a much better wrestler. Like, he never got close to the hips. He definitely shot in there to try. Like, he didn't get down low, but he was trying to, like, body lock him and stuff. But, like, Max was too much of a savvy vet.
So officially Fight Metrics credited him with 0 takedown attempts. You are right. He did attempt to clinch.
But it's like,
he did attempt to clinch.
Yeah, I watched the fight. He didn't get credited with anything, but he definitely was trying. He just wasn't nearly good enough to do it.
See, that's where the one difference I'll say. He was trying to clinch him, right? He was trying to clinch him and get double underhooks and press him into the cage. But he never committed for a takedown. He never shot for a leg. He never got on a single. He never blasted for a double. He never tried to, make it happen. He was just content standing there and getting beat up by Max Griffin. Now, that's a super tough debut, dude. Griffin's a fringe 15 contender. He's fought a lot of good guys. He's actually got pretty good grappling of his own, and he's obviously a superior striker. But again, the plan B for him is to rely on his striking. Even though in the regional scene it looks like he can't strike, he's just largely out of place out there. And eventually, it's not like he completely gets battered, but once that ear explodes on, I believe it's an elbow inside the clinch, yeah, they stop the fight. Nobody's really worried about it. And now he effectively hasn't fought, in almost a year since then. So, he's still young enough. I'm sure he's making improvements. It's that his wrestling didn't look all that good. And his primary foundation is his ability to grapple. So if his best path of victory is to grapple guys and he has an inability to get the fight to the ground, that makes it a risky proposition. So now we got to go back to his striking. Well, his striking looked okay on the regional scene. And, I got Max Griffin. We're going to give him a pass because it's Max Griffin. But I got to give the striking advantage to Sasha Palatnikov. I think he's got better output. He's got, potentially okay enough cardio to just keep this thing going, but he works the body really well. He's got a solid body kick and he moves his feet side to side. He moves a ton. That Lewis Koski fight, Lewis Koski hurts him a few times in the first, but every time Koski runs in for the kill, say it again?
Had him left for dead in round 1.
Dude.
He gassed the shit out of himself, and then he wasn't even.
And that's a Koski.
Wasn't even able to get the finish until I say it, with a. When he wasn't able to get the finish until round 3, even though Louis Koski, after 2.5 minutes into that fight, was spent. He had nothing left in the tank. Totally and then the guy goes out next time and gets subbed in round 2, right at the beginning of round 2, goes out and gets subbed by Impa Kasaganay. I think the opportunities may be there for Bahamondes. I'm already in on Bahamondes. I bet him minus 135. It's a small play. I didn't think he looked all that bad against Max Griffin, and Max Griffin has a ton of experience at this level. I thought he looked okay on the feet. I mean, rewatching his ear literally falling off of the side of his head was disgusting. But if this guy's grappling is the issue is they've got plus 180 out there by sub. That was something I was considering after this guy has all of these accolades, but it's if you can't get the fight down there, I don't know how it's all going to play out. But the cardio did seem to hold up. I think Sasha Palatnikov, that win over Koski was, that was his one opportunity to get a win. I don't think this guy's going to end up being all that much in this promotion. So yeah, I'm in on Bahamondes already.
Yeah, and I think Bahamondes is the very popular play amongst people this week. I feel like a lot of people I've spoken to are on Team Ramiz Bahamondes, but yeah, I honestly feel like it'll be Sasha Palatnikov moving his feet and landing the strikes. Bahamondes striking looks okay, right? His cardio looked good, but if his body keeps getting kicked in that first round, he'll start to tire. Once he starts to tire and the takedowns don't materialize, I feel like it's Palatnikov's chance to take over. Palatnikov got battered in that first round, but keep in mind he was outstruck 57-56 in that first round. He took the damage of the first 2 minutes, and then he rolls back. In the second round, he outlands him 44-29, takes over, and then he finishes him in the third. His cardio looks solid in that fight. Now, here's the one pass I'm going to give him, which is the reason why I'll end up taking that slight dog shot at Sasha Palatnikov here. The Impa Kasaganay fight. He looked good in the first round against Impa Kasaganay, right? He looked solid. He was in the fight anyways. Now, with Impa was a big middleweight. This guy is compact and jacked. That was his welterweight debut. And Impa Kasanganai looked way better at 170 pounds than he had previously at 185. So, he looked competitive in the first and then unfortunately gives up the submission win in the second. That's fair. I think Impa's got some very solid upside, will continuously get better. Fair. Plotnikov's got to go back to the drawing board and make some improvements, but I think those improvements might be good enough to beat Ramiz Bahamondes. Last but not least, he's full-time out at Extreme Couture. He's working with some of the best guys in the world. Surely he's got a multitude of training partners, just like Ramiz Bahamondes in the gym. And if he can stuff those takedowns, keep his feet moving, work the body, keep this thing standing and outpoint him, plus 110, Dog's got a good shot of coming through here. So, officially, I'll get to the PRP in a bit, but officially I see at least 3 or 4 of these dogs coming through, if not more.
I will give you this. The more popular play does seem to be Bahamondes. I don't look at any of this stuff until while we're on the show here, after I've done my own tape study and all of that jazz. Anyway, we're just about out of time here, but before we go, hit him with the PRP.
Hit him with the PRP. We're going to go with Kelvin Gastelum, dog right off the hop. We're going to go Mark Madsen. We're going to go, I'm going to go Parker Porter, dog number 2. We're going to go with Trevin Jones, and we're going to assume he's the favorite there. We're going to go with Vinc Pichel, who's technically speaking dog number 3. Pantoja, Luis Saldana, Brian Kelleher. I'm going to go Josiane Nunes, dog number 4. William Knight, ever so slightly. Ignacio Bahamondes, dog number 5. Sasha Plotnikov, dog number 6. There's currently 12 fights on this card. I think half of them are going to be underdogs. I'm hoping that the reads that I didn't pull the trigger on, like Fabio, Cherant, and now that's about the only underdog I'm going to pass on. Yeah, again, this is a tightly contested card. Well, the benefit is that we have a UFC, we have a Bellator, we have a PFL, so you could take the ones that you're comfortable with and not have to jam it and force it. But of course, on PRPs, baby, you got to take those chances. And if this PRP was to hit, which again, it's possible. We hit a PRP last week.
I don't like your chances. Of hitting.
No,
this doesn't feel like the week.
The odds are going to be 100,000 to 1.
This doesn't feel like the week that it comes through. Someone's shitting in that apple pie. I wish you well, but like,
wish me well, my friend.
I mean, if you're adding Josiane, Nunes, and Fabio Cherant, it's like someone's not coming through there. Maybe this will be a real digestible clip for later on. But this does not feel very safe whatsoever.
Right. No, they're never safe, but that's why you got to go for it. But if you were to put Gastelum, Madsen, Perky, Pantoja, From Hell Pichel, greatest nickname in the game, by the way, Brian Kelleher, Saldana, we'll go with Thick Willie against Paul's good advice there. But we are going Josiane Nunes because it's getting greasy up in this bitch. Plotnikov, Ignacio Bahamondes, and you know what? Okay, I'm just going to click on some random 3-1 and assume that's what Trevin Jones would end up being. Give me Taylor Johnson's lines. $100 bet would net you $174,000. So what's up?
Can't lose parlay, really.
No. What are the chances of this losing? What are the chances? Need $600 to come through, but crazier shit has happened. And by the way, you guys a lot of people complain like this guy only takes the favorites. Like the favorites,
he took a lot of dogs this week. Yeah, he took a lot of dogs this week.
Yeah. If you like the dog, you got to think he's got a solid chance. And most of these cards, listen, favorites are going to hit more often than not, but it does seem like that sweet spot is getting about 4 underdogs, maybe 5 underdogs. Sometimes there's more, sometimes there's less. Card a few weeks ago was almost all underdogs, right? I think the first 5 fights were all dog hits. Those nights are going to happen on these greasy cards flying under the radar with middling guys in middling matchups. Ooh, doesn't that explain the card we got coming up on Saturday? So
that does.
Yeah, listen. Do you want to go to the corner store and buy a random set of numbers and hope for the best, or would you like to get a random assortment of dogs?
All right,
I'm here for it, Paul. I know you're here for it, so hopefully the audience is here for it. And last week we hit 3 blocks of parlays, right? The best being a plus 600. If that ends up being the case here, great. If we can extend it and hit some of those big juicy ones, be a great time too.
I'll just quickly say the bets that I'm on already. I have Pichel. It's a medium-sized bet. Pichel minus 104. Bahamondes minus 135 small bet. Roberts Bahamondes under 2.5 rounds plus 140 small. If I had access to DraftKings Sportsbook, that Pichel by sub should be gone because that is too good to pass up. That's a little sprinkle play, but my God, 20-1.
20-1.
I mean, he's going to be looking. He's going to be looking for takedowns. He's going to be forcing him up against the fence. He's going to be trying to fight that fight. Fighting at range is a losing proposition for Pichel. That doesn't mean that the Hubbard isn't able to survive, but 20-1 is absurd. I'm probably going to add. I'm definitely going to add Madsen by sub plus 550 as well. What else? I circled the over 1.5 rounds in Sherman Porter as something that I'm interested in. Gonna watch weigh-ins. Obviously, as always, I'll drop the old bets that I'm on by the time we get to Saturday, and onwards and upwards from there. So that is it for us this week. Hope you enjoyed the show. For Pat Mayo and Cody Saftic, I'm Paul Shaughnessy saying goodbye and good luck.